Well, the study comes out with a very positive message that for a number of reasons and changed circumstances, Latin America, in contrast with the past, this time around is more likely to avoid the downturn and negative aspects of the commodity cycle. In the past, Latin America experienced a lot of wasted commodity bonanzas. This time around, the report argues, for a number of reasons, including better policies, but including also better integration with the world, Latin America is more likely to avoid the curse. And through active policies, which the report identifies, it will be possible for LAC not only to avoid the bad, but to maximize the benefits, and not only to avoid the traps with respect to growth, productivity, and institutions, but actually find ways to generate more growth, to improve the institutions, and obtain a virtuous circle between the two, so that it can experience prosperity even after the commodity price cycle ends. There are a number of reasons. The first one is that this commodity bonanza period finds many LAC countries with much better institutions. Now, commodity wealth is something that has to be managed prudently and responsibly, but that requires political, social, and even policy institutions that enable a country not to waste in a binge of consumption the wealth that commodity provides suddenly. This management of commodity resources involves saving and involves policies that can transform the sudden surge of wealth into future wealth, into future prosperity. We find that Latin America, compared to its past, now has institutions that should enable better to manage this phenomenon. There are some risks, of course. For instance, the fact that commodity wealth has to be managed in a much more decentralized economic and political systems, which may create some tensions between the central government and the local governments. But that said, and not ignoring the risks, we find that Latin America has better institutions. It also has better macro policy. And part of the management of commodity wealth has to do with the management of monetary and exchange rate policy. We think that Latin America is better, in a better position now to conduct improved macro policy to manage the commodity wealth and avoid that it has adverse consequences for the long term. Finally, we find that commodities in Latin America now seem to be linked to a broader menu of foreign direct investment and technological development activities, including in the agricultural sector, for example, in Brazil, where the commodity production is associated with improved technology. And that also promises a much greater ability to overcome the curse, if there was ever a curse. We find in the report that this is the longest cycle and the most comprehensive cycle of commodity price increases that Latin America has experienced since we have records. It means that most of the commodities that LAC produces, agricultural, mineral, oil, are involved in this price increase. Clearly, this long cycle and the fact that it's so comprehensive is not independent of China and emerging Asia. China in particular is an economy that is very intensive in the use of commodities for its growth, and therefore China is exerting an important pressure on the demand for commodities worldwide. That benefits LAC directly, Latin America directly, because China is importing from Latin America. It also benefits Latin America and South America in particular indirectly, because the demand from China increases the prices of commodities in global markets. Now, how long will this last? One can say that the strong demand for commodities from China will last for a while, as long as China moves into higher levels of prosperity. That doesn't imply, however, that the prices of commodities will have to remain high. History teaches us that when prices of commodities stay high, entrepreneurs find ways to produce more. Sooner or later, the supply of those commodities will be catching up with the demand, and prices may actually level off and may even decline. So Latin America has to be prepared that, notwithstanding the fact that emerging Asia will continue to exert significant pressure on the demand for commodities, that does not imply a permanently high prices. Latin America, therefore, has to anticipate the likelihood that sooner or later prices may decline, and may decline even very sharply. And for those days is when Latin America will have to find itself with better structures in institutions and the economy, so it can continue with a prosperity even under lower commodity prices.